Stepfather forced my mother to kick me out, and now I am alone. I worked hard to get back on my feet, and now they asked me to finance their golden daughter because I was 17 years old when everything started to fall apart. My dad had died the year before, and honestly, I thought losing him would be the hardest thing I would ever have to deal with. I was wrong. Not long after his funeral, my mom met David, my stepfather, and within months he moved into our house with his 2 kids, Lisa, who was 15, and her little brother, who was 6. It felt fast, too fast, but I didn't say much about it at the time. I wanted my mother to be happy. I didn't want to be the reason she couldn't move on. But David? He wasn't exactly what you would call father material. He had this smugness about him, like he always thought he was smarter than everyone else in the room. He treated my mother more like a maid than a partner, and his children? Lisa could do no wrong in his eyes. She was, as he put it, his princess. Meanwhile, I was just the kid who came with the house. At first, I tried to make it work. I really did. I picked up extra shifts at McDonald's after school because I knew money was tight with all of us living under one roof. I paid for my own clothes, my phone bill, and even chipped in for groceries when I could. But it didn't seem to matter. David always found a way to criticize me. I wasn't helping out enough, or I was disrespectful, or I didn't understand what it means to be a family. Things came to a head one night at dinner. Out of nowhere, David announced that I should give Lisa my life savings. He said she needed the money for important things, like clothes and school trips, and that since she was my new sister, it was my responsibility to take care of her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told him no, of course. I said I had worked hard for that money and I wasn't going to hand it over to someone who treated me like I didn't even exist half the time. My mother just sat there staring at her plate. She didn't defend me, didn't say a word. When I asked her later why she didn't stand up for me, she said, "It's easier if you just go along with it. David wants what's best for everybody." I couldn't believe it. She was choosing him and Lisa over me. A few days later, David took it to the next level. I came home from school to find my stuff packed in boxes by the front door. He told me in no uncertain terms that I had to leave. That I was almost 18. And it was time for me to learn what adulthood really looks like. He said my mother agreed with him. When I turned to her, hoping, praying that she'd say something different, all she said was, "This is for the best." So I left. Just like that. At first, I had no idea where to go. I had no family nearby, and the few friends I had weren't exactly swimming in resources. But one of them, my buddy Alex, said I could crash on his couch for a while. His family didn't have much, but they treated me better in a week than David and Lisa ever had. Still, I knew staying there wasn't a long-term solution. I had to figure something out. In between shifts at McDonald's, I started looking for cheap places to stay. I didn't have a lot saved up, especially after paying for school supplies and helping with bills at home, but I scraped together enough to rent a tiny room in a shared house. It wasn't much, just a bed, a desk, and a drafty window, but it was mine. For the first time in months, I didn't have to tiptoe around someone else's rules. Living alone wasn't easy, though. Between rent, food, and trying to save for the future, every dollar felt like it was spent before I even earned it. I picked up extra shifts whenever I could and started delivering food in the evenings to bring in more cash. There were nights I barely slept, running on pure adrenaline and cheap coffee, but I had no choice. If I stopped, even for a second, it felt like the whole world would come crashing down on me. The hardest part was the loneliness. I'd sit in that little room, staring at the ceiling, wondering how things had gotten so bad so fast. I missed my mom, not the version of her that let David walk all over her, but the mom I'd had before my dad died. The one who laughed at my stupid jokes and cheered me on at my baseball games. I thought about calling her a million times, but every time I picked up the phone, I stopped myself. What was the point? She'd made her choice. It wasn't all bad, though. The work was paying off, slowly but surely. I got promoted to shift manager at McDonald's, which meant a little more money and a little more predictable hours. I started taking online classes, using whatever spare cash I had to chip away at my dream of getting a degree. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a step forward. Every once in a while I'd hear from my mom. She'd send a quick text, usually something generic like, "Hope you're doing well," or "Miss you." I'd reply with a polite but distant, "I'm fine, thanks," and leave it at that. Part of me wanted to tell her everything, how hard I was working, how much I'd grown, how much I missed her. But another part of me was still angry. Angry that she'd let David kick me out of my own home, angry that she hadn't stood up for me when it mattered most. As the months passed, I began to feel like I was finally turning a corner. I wasn't exactly thriving, but I wasn't drowning either. I'd built something for myself, no matter how small or fragile. And then, out of the blue, I got a call from my mother. When my mom called, I hesitated before answering. We hadn't talked much in the past year, and I wasn't sure I wanted to hear what she had to say. But curiosity won out. She invited me over for New Year's dinner and said something about, "No matter what's happened, we're still family." It sounded forced, but for some reason I said yes. Maybe part of me wanted to see if things had changed. Walking into the house felt strange. My mom was busy in the kitchen, David was on the couch complaining about something, and Lisa was scrolling through her phone at the dining room table. It was like stepping back into a life I'd worked so hard to leave behind. Dinner was tense. David complained about money and how hard life was, while Lisa chimed in with the occasional snide comment. My mother remained silent, speaking only to pass the food or to agree with David. And then David turned to me, smiling like he just had the best idea ever. He started talking about Lisa's future college, a car, maybe even an apartment. "You've worked hard," he said. "It's time for you to help your sister. That's what family does." I froze. My mother didn't say a word. I sat there trying to make sense of what David had just said. He wanted me to take my savings, the money I'd worked to the bone for, and use it to support Lisa's future. "What do you mean?" I asked, even though I already knew. David smiled like he was explaining something simple to a child. "You worked hard, you saved. Lisa is your sister now, and she deserves a bright future. College, a car, things that will help her succeed. Family takes care of each other." I looked at my mother, hoping for a shred of support. She didn't meet my eyes, just kept her eyes on her plate. "And what about me?" I asked. "Where was this family when I was on my own, trying to survive? You kicked me out, remember?" David shrugged. "You did well for yourself. You're stronger for it. Lisa needs support now. That's how families work, you contribute, or you're not really part of it." It was as if the air had been sucked out of the room. Lisa was still scrolling through her phone, pretending none of this had anything to do with her. My mom finally looked up at me, but said nothing. I stood up and pushed my chair back. "You want my money to buy her a car? To play the hero? No thanks. You can keep your idea of family." David's tone sharpened. "You'll regret walking away from us. This is your chance to prove you care." I grabbed my coat. "I've proven plenty already. To myself. That's enough." Before I left, I turned around. "Happy New Year. You'll need it." I walked out into the cold, realizing how little had changed. The next day, my phone rang. It was my mom. I let it go to voicemail at first, but when she called again a few hours later, I figured I might as well answer. "You've ruined everything," she said as soon as I picked up. "David is furious, and Lisa is devastated. This wasn't the way to handle things." I sat back and tried to stay calm. "What exactly did I ruin? Your perfect little dinner where I was supposed to be Lisa's piggy bank?" I told the truth. "If that's a problem, it's on you. She's your sister," my mother said, her voice almost pleading. "She looks up to you, whether you realize it or not. She was really hurt by what you said." "She's not my sister," I said flatly. "She's David's daughter, and she's been treated like royalty since the day you let her move in." And you stood by while David kicked me out. Now you expect me to help her? Do you even listen to yourself? My mother was silent for a moment. Then she sighed. I just wanted us to start over. I thought maybe we could be a family again. A fresh start? I asked. How does that work when you never even acknowledged what you did? When you let him pack my bags and kick me out without a word? I'm sorry, son, she said quietly. But you didn't have to be so cruel. You called everyone names, stormed out it wasn't fair. I laughed, more in disbelief than anything else. What wasn't fair was you letting him kick me out of my own home and then pretending it never happened. And you want me to finance Lisa's life on top of that? No, Mom. That's not how it works. Her tone changed, getting softer, almost defeated. I just can't handle all this conflict. David's upset, Lisa's upset. Maybe it's better if you don't come around for a while. We all need some space to cool down. Space, I repeated, feeling the finality of it. Yes. Let's call it that. I hung up before she could say anything more. That was the last real conversation we ever had. Occasionally she'd send me a text, things like, "Hope you're okay," or "Miss you," but I stopped responding after a while. What was the point? She'd made her choice. Now I had to live with mine. Months went by and life went on. I'd buried myself in work and classes, trying to keep my head above water. I hadn't heard from my mom or David in weeks, and to be honest, I preferred it that way. The silence was better than the empty, superficial texts. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from an unknown number. Normally I wouldn't have answered, but something told me to pick up. "Hello?" I said carefully. "Hey, it's Lisa." I froze. Lisa? She hadn't said a word to me in years, and now she called out of the blue? "What do you want?" I asked, not bothering to hide my suspicion. "Look, I know this is strange," she said, sounding nervous. "But I need your help. Please don't hang up." "Help with what?" I asked, already regretting taking the call. She hesitated before continuing. "Things aren't great at home. My dad's been different. Angry all the time. He and your mom fight all the time. It's bad." I didn't know what to say. David and my mom fighting wasn't exactly shocking, but hearing it from Lisa made it seem real in a way I hadn't expected. "I don't see how this has anything to do with me," I finally said. "Because she misses you," Lisa said quickly. "Your mom. She doesn't say it, but I can tell. She's been trying to reach out to you, but she doesn't know how. She's not well." I didn't know how to respond. Was this a guilt trip? A ploy to drag me back into her mess? Or was Lisa actually being sincere? Before I could find out, Lisa added, "I know I've been a brat. And I know that my dad is the reason that everything went downhill. But I'm trying to make things better, okay? I thought you should know what's going on." She hung up on me before I could say anything else. For the first time in months, I found myself thinking about my mom, not the anger or the betrayal, but the good memories. The mom who made me pancakes on Saturday mornings, who stayed up late to help me with school projects, who hugged me so tight at Dad's funeral I thought I'd break. I sat there for a long time, wondering what I was going to do. Lisa's call threw me for a loop. I couldn't figure out what her angle was, if she even had one. Part of me wanted to ignore it, chalk it up to more family drama I didn't need to get involved in. But another part of me couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said about my mom. A week later, I gave in and texted my mom. It was short and to the point. Lisa called me. She said things weren't right. "Is that true?" She didn't answer right away, and for a while I didn't think she would. Then, late that night, my phone buzzed. "I don't know what she told you, but I'm fine. Don't worry about me." I stared at the message, trying to decide if I believed her. Something felt wrong. My mom wasn't the type to admit when things were bad, and "I'm fine" was her go-to when she wanted to sweep something under the rug. I decided to call her. She answered on the second ring. "Why didn't you just tell me what was wrong?" I asked right away. She was quiet for a moment before saying, It's nothing to worry about. I don't want to drag you into it. You're not dragging me into anything. Just tell me the truth. She sighed, and I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. David's been under a lot of stress. He's not himself. But it's okay. We'll work through it. Not himself? I asked. Lisa said you had a fight? That it's bad. Her voice softened. It's just been hard. He's struggling at work, and he takes it out on everyone. But I'm dealing with it. I felt a wave of anger rise. Why do you always do this? Make excuses for him? He's been treating you like crap since the day you met him, and now you're telling me it's worse, and you're still defending him? I'm not defending him, she said almost in a whisper. I just don't know what else to do. Her words hit me harder than I had expected. For the first time, I realized how trapped she must have felt, caught between wanting to fix things and knowing she couldn't. I wanted to help her, but I didn't know if I could. She'd let me go so easily when David told her to. Was it my place to try to step in now? A few days after that phone call, something happened that I never saw coming. I got a knock on my door late at night, and when I opened it, Lisa was standing there, shivering in the cold. She had a duffel bag slung over her shoulder and a look on her face I'd never seen before, vulnerable, scared. Can I come in? She asked softly. I stepped aside, still trying to process what had just happened. She came in, dropped her bag, and sank onto the couch. What are you doing here? I asked. I couldn't stay there anymore, she said. They had this huge fight. My dad said some horrible things, and I couldn't take it. I had to get out. I stood there stunned. You ran away? She nodded. I didn't know where else to go. I'm sorry if that's strange, but you're the only person I could think of. I don't have anyone else. Her words hit me like a punch in the gut. For years, I'd thought of Lisa as nothing more than a spoiled, entitled child who only cared about herself. But as she sat there in my tiny apartment, she didn't look spoiled at all. She looked lost. Does Mom know where you are? I asked. I texted her after I left. She said I could come back anytime, but I don't want to. Not while he's there. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to send her back, to tell her it wasn't my problem, but the other part, the part that remembered what it was like to feel unwanted and out of place, couldn't turn her away. You can stay for a while, I finally said. But you'll have to pull your weight. I don't have much, and I can't afford to take care of both of us. She nodded quickly. I'll get a job. I promise. Over the next few weeks, we settled into an uncomfortable routine. Lisa wasn't used to living without all the comforts David had spoiled her with, but to her credit, she adapted quickly. She got a part-time job at a coffee shop, started helping with the groceries, and even helped clean the apartment. At first we barely spoke. The past still hung between us, all the bitterness and resentment. But slowly things began to change. One night, as we sat around the tiny table in my kitchen eating takeout, she broke the silence. I know I wasn't great to you before, she said, staring at her plate. I was a brat. I didn't care about anyone but myself. I'm sorry for that. I didn't know how to respond. I'd spent so long hating her, blaming her for everything that went wrong, that hearing her apologize took me by surprise. It wasn't all your fault, I finally said. David made it worse for everyone. And Mom. I trailed off, not sure how to finish. She's not happy, Lisa said quietly. I don't think she's been happy in a long time. We didn't talk much more that night, but something shifted between us after that. We weren't just stuck in the same room anymore. We started to feel like a family. Living together wasn't easy, but it worked. For the first time in years, I didn't feel completely alone. And I think Lisa felt the same way. Life settled into a strange kind of normal after Lisa moved in. We weren't close at first, but over time we learned to trust each other. She stayed with me for almost a year, working part-time and eventually saving enough to move out on her own. We stayed in touch after that, texting or meeting for coffee from time to time. As for my mom and David, things weren't getting any better. Lisa told me that the arguments between them escalated after she left. David lost his job, and without his income, they struggled to keep up with the bills. Eventually, my mother couldn't take it anymore. She filed for divorce and moved into a small apartment by herself. Mom reached out to me a few times after that, apologizing and saying she regretted the choices she'd made. But I kept my distance. I wasn't ready to let her back into my life completely, but I tried to stay civil. We talked occasionally, short and polite conversations that felt more like talking to a stranger than my mother. David? He disappeared. Lisa heard through some mutual friends that he'd moved out of state, but neither of us cared enough to dig into the details. As for Lisa, she surprised me. She put herself through college, taking night classes while working during the day. Eventually, she landed a steady job in marketing and seemed to have found her footing. From time to time, she joked that living with me was the wake-up call she needed. And me? I kept grinding. I finished my online classes and got certified in IT, which landed me a solid job at a tech company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and it gave me a chance to build a life I could be proud of. I even managed to save up enough to upgrade my apartment, nothing fancy, but it felt like a mansion compared to the tiny room I started in. I still think about all that happened. The anger, the betrayal, the loneliness, it's all still there, in a little corner of my mind. But so is the pride. I built a life for myself, from nothing, and I learned what it really means to stand on my own 2 feet.